we're going to finish on a high note, I would say. We're back on Netflix for another new documentary series. This one is called Reality Check, Inside America's Next Top Model. And here's a clip.
On America's Next Top Model, we were showing the behind the scenes of what the fashion world was.
I wanted to fight against the fashion industry. The only reason the door was open to me was because of Tyra.
We had an audience of over 100 million people.
I felt like I was part of something so big.
That was a moment where I realized, oh my God, I think we built a monster.
Come on, Ian. Smize. You know you want to. Smize. Smile with your eyes for anyone that doesn't know. If you know, you know. Wow. This is quite something, isn't it? I mean, it's a bit long and laborious, if I'm honest with you, and it probably could have been shortened quite a bit, in all honesty. But it kind of sadly tells you what you probably already know. I mean, for anyone watching this first time around, although it drew in more than 100 million viewers worldwide, there was so much wrong with it. And I think we all knew that. You know, I think it's Kate Moss that said those words, nothing tastes as good as skinny feels. I think it was her that said that. And we have like a fashion industry which seems to rely on models being absolutely emaciated at times, and the fashion world has had a fairly hard and understandably hard and rightfully hard ride for trying to get people to look a certain way. But my goodness, to make a television series in which this was sort of almost made okay, I suppose, is just unbelievable, really. And of course, 2026, this viewing's pretty hard. Now, this is a documentary of sorts. They talk to Tyra Banks, who of course made her name really hugely on this, and she takes an interesting stance, really, because she sort of says, well, it is what it is. She recognises things aren't quite right in places. She totally takes herself away from some of the bigger questions around what they filmed. That was a producing thing that wasn't down to her. And then, of course, they also interviewed the exec producer, Ken Smock, who just said, this is a documentary. Everybody knew what they were getting into. And of course, it's very easy to look back at television, isn't it, and pull it apart. There's been lots of things that have just been absolutely wrong, but that doesn't make it right. Just because we're now looking back and it was okay at the time, it actually, I found this, even at the time, really quite uncomfortable to view. And this was like public ridicule. It was weighing people on camera. There are images of people putting their hands around their waist and be able to touch their forefingers with their thumbs. I mean, I don't need to tell you how small that is. But apart from that, it's this demoralization and complete women, particularly, I think, in this instance, are ridiculed for being different. So if you had a gap in your teeth, one person was sort of forced to have that gap removed. A makeover is makeup, in my opinion. A makeover is not procedure. And suddenly you see this. You see the body shaming is just off the chart, put it that way, absolutely off the chart. In a world where we just need a bit of kindness right now, this kind of really takes the biscuit and is uncomfortable viewing. You've also got the really horrible stories of where they, one girl, she was drunk. She drank 2 bottles of wine, I think. She ended up having sex with someone. They filmed it. Just shouldn't have gone out. It should never happen. Someone should have stepped in and stopped that. It hasn't happened. There's loads of people here that are massively affected and will be affected for the rest of their life. But it's not the first time we've seen it with reality shows, is it? But this really is up there with the greats in terms of, I think, how badly people are treated. And does this shine a beacon of light on the fashion industry as a whole? Quite probably. Is this still representative of the fashion world? Quite probably in areas. I'm sure there are dark areas of every industry, but let's be honest, being thin, and I don't say slim, being thin is still very in vogue, and that's the point, isn't it? And we're creating a world for our girls, for young girls, to think that this is normal, and it's not. And I think actually it's worth people, because the memes that have come out of this show are huge, aren't they? Even if you're not a millennial, you didn't watch it first time round, you're still going to know about it. It's sort of popular culture in a way, isn't it? I mean, they got one girl who was slightly bigger than the rest to pose as an elephant on the safari-themed photo shoot. It's absolutely disgraceful. I mean, it's just a recoil in horror, really, that it's ever been allowed to go out. As I say, I still think, sadly, this stuff goes on, probably. But yeah, it's pretty grim. It's interesting because, of course, the main people in there are involved in this documentary, which is what I think makes it so interesting, because you actually really want to hear from them. Are they hard enough on them? I'm not sure they are. Could you cut this down? Yes, you definitely could. I think it's probably a bit too long, and you get the gist pretty quickly of how horrendous this time was for an awful lot of people. What did you think, Ian?
I found it very interesting. In fact, I went straight on to episode 2, which is unusual for me. I didn't watch Inside America's Next Top Model at the time. And, I mean, as you say, they've got great access, and including Tyra Banks. And, I mean, fair play to her. She's come on to, say her piece. There's long interviews with her. And it starts by kind of telling her backstory. And she overcame a hell of a lot of prejudice in the industry, a lot of kind of racism, to succeed. And I think the idea, her original idea behind this show, which was rejected by all the big networks, and it was just the last one she went to, picked it up. No one else was interested. And her idea was, I want to show that, modeling should be culturally diverse, and also it should be all sorts of different shapes and sizes. So that was her. She says that's how she started out, but of course it was hugely successful, and then it just grew and grew and grew. And there's some interesting characters in there. So there's the catwalk coach Jay, creative director also Jay. And this, they said they wanted a straight white English photographer, so they got this guy called Nigel Barker, and then you've got the executive producer Ken Mock. So they all, it's just really interesting to hear from them, and also there's lots of archive footage. I mean, you can imagine you've got a group of models living in a house together, doing all these increasingly weird and inappropriate challenges. And yeah, the thing I took away from the first 2 episodes is what you mentioned. It was effectively a sexual assault, that they filmed. I mean, it just beggars belief. And no one did anything about it. It was absolutely horrific. And yes, the comments as well clearly had a huge impact on the people who took part. Janice Dickinson, as a judge, was particularly unpleasant about people's body shapes, really horrible. So it's something that I think, you're just going to burn through it because it's absolutely fascinating. And yeah, it probably could have been edited down a bit, but I think it's fascinating look back and a reminder that although people moan about woke, I just think, thank goodness we did wake up to stuff like this, because and luckily you wouldn't get away with it, I hope, today.